What's up, everybody? UFC Vegas 118 just wrapped up, and this is going to be my post-fight recap. Listen, this card was very, very entertaining. And coming in on paper, right, pulling an Anthony Smith on paper, this card was loaded for an Apex card. And I feel like it delivered. We had some amazing finishes. We had some incredible performances. We got a lot to discuss. We're going to go through every single fight that went down on this card. Let's rock and roll. First fight to discuss is the main event, Belal Muhammad versus Gabriel Bonfim. Gabriel Bonfim pitched an absolute shutout. And some of the reservations that I had about Bonfim coming into this fight was how will the gas tank hold up in a real 25-minute fight? Now, we know that his last fight before this was against Randy Brown, where he was able to get the finish within the first couple rounds, but really it was some of those questions that we had about Bonfim, right? We know that on the feet he's very skilled. He's got nasty calf kicks. His boxing is really crisp. He's very explosive. He's got a nasty submission game. It wasn't the questions of, well, does Bonfim have the skill set to compete at the top of this weight class? It is how does that gas tank hold up? Specifically against a former champion, a guy in Belal Muhammad who is known for pushing a crazy pace, has very good wrestling, excellent cardio, and his striking is pretty underrated, right? I feel like it's properly rated now because we've seen throughout his past few fights, Belal Muhammad has basically just stood in front of the opposition and chose to have kickboxing fights. Right now, obviously, we know some of the takedowns got stuffed against JDM, same against Ian Machado, Gary. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing that we saw in this fight here, to where a lot of people I see are online are like, why didn't Belal grapple more? Why didn't he wrestle more? And I do think that Belal should have tried to push the pace with the wrestling a bit more. But I feel like a lot of that had to do with the game that Bonfim was playing. And obviously, when you look to grapple against a guy like Bonfim, you have to be very, very careful choosing to do that, because we know that the style of grappler that Belal is, a lot of it is pressure in your face, and basically he gets the takedowns, but he doesn't have the best control. We know that Belal's jiu-jitsu is not very high level, so if you're going to be diving in on these takedowns and you're putting your head on the waistline or out on the hip, those are going to be opportunities to where Bonfim, who has very, very good submissions from that front headlock position, that was going to be an area of grave danger for Belal. But I feel like he should have pushed the grappling a bit more in this fight. But I feel like that was something that Belal was very aware of coming into this. And one of the reasons I said, I don't know that Belal is going to grapple that much in this fight. We haven't seen him do it a ton in his past few fights, right? Maybe hearing some noise from the fans, wanting to go out there and strike, but I feel like that's part of it. Obviously, you could look at these fights and go, Belal should grapple a little bit more, and he's just fighting really good fighters, man. The welterweight division has evolved. It's gotten better, and I feel like Belal is at a point where I just don't know that he's going to beat a lot of these top-ranked guys in this division at this point with the style of fight that he brings to the table right now. That's the reality. And I know that people are going to say, well, just grapple more. And I do agree that there's these moments where it feels like Belal should grapple, but he tried to grapple Bonfim at one point. Bonfim shucked it off, got right back into space. These welterweights, man, they're big, they're strong, they're technical. And Bonfim, to me, looks like one of these new generations of MMA fighter that we're seeing on the rise in this weight class. Because Bonfim, he just had the answers. And I feel like Muhammad was very, very nervous to try to grapple, given the fact that Bonfim has nasty submission skills. He has several submission victories throughout his career. Right? That's basically what Bonfim has been known for, is being a dangerous submission guy. And then now the striking has caught up to that, right? We know that him and his brother Ismail, they're very explosive. Gabriel's striking, it is getting better and better and better. And I love the way that he plays the game on the feet. He attacks the lead leg. That calf kick is nasty, right? Kind of plays the long guard a little bit, explosive, moving in and out, and then boom, just chops. Doesn't really shift the shoulders much, just snaps that calf kick out there beautifully. Kind of how Poatan throws it, how Ian Gary, throws it. Not much of a tell with the shoulders, just whips it out there. And early on, Belal was checking some of them. We saw him, check some kicks here and there. But when you're not given that shift and that tell in the shoulders, it becomes very hard to see when that calf kick is coming. And that's exactly what Bonfim was doing in this fight. Attacking the lead leg of Belal, slowing down some of that movement, because we've seen Belal's footwork's pretty good, right? He'll switch stances, he'll kind of skirt around the octagon side. But one of the big things that Belal had an issue with was he was on the back foot for a lot of this fight. Bonfim was putting him on his heels, which is exactly what you want to do when you know a guy might look to wrestle against you, right? And that's what we've seen Belal do. When Belal won the title against Leon Edwards, what was it? It was heavy pressure, the boxing blended together with the wrestling, feinting the level changes, opening up the hands, throwing the combinations upstairs, getting, to the takedowns. None of that worked in this fight. And a lot of that has to do with the style that Bonfim brings to the table. He's got good takedown defense. He's got very good offensive grappling of his own. The submission skills are there. And now we're seeing on the feet, the way that he stopped Randy Brown, right? We're seeing the evolution in his striking. He's very, very explosive. The jab is popping. Everything is built around the jab and the calf kicks. And then once he starts to get that going, once your lead leg starts to be, kind of compromised, and now it forced Belal to kind of get into the pocket and have to trade a little bit, because early on, Belal was doing a good job switching stances, ripping kicks to the body, kind of moving. That's where Bonfim's calf kick came into play. The jab kind of to stop you in your tracks, the calf kick to take away some of the movement and pull Belal into that range to where that allowed Bonfim to really get to the boxing combos, the 1-2s, pulling out, sliding the right hand, throwing the left hook, and Bonfim's got a nasty left hook, right? He was loading on it a little bit too much in this fight, which is one of the reasons I feel like he didn't have too much success with it, which given, I think Belal was very prepared for the left hook, but I feel like that's something that Bonfim is going to learn from even more moving forward. Having now gone a very hard 25 minutes, because while Bonfim pitched a shutout and clearly won the fight and controlled it and essentially did dominate, it was still competitive, right? I think you could still have like a dominant one-sided fight and to where we're like, yeah, Bonfim clearly won. I mean, he's winning the exchanges, looks really, really sharp, but Belal was in there, man. Belal's is as tough as they come, was moving forward, landed some shots with the hands, mixed in some kicks, very well. He's got some underrated body kicks. But it was just Bonfim was a step ahead the entire time. It was the speed, it was the explosiveness, and every time Belal got close, he would try to extend the combos, and anytime he did, Bonfim was able to slide out of range and make him pay, right? That right hand that he drilled Belal with that knocked the mouthpiece out. I mean, not many guys I feel like could take that shot. So shows how durable Belal is. We knew that coming into this fight. I'm very impressed by Bonfim. The questions that I had about Gabriel's game were answered for me tonight. They were, but it's also one of those things, right? We see these Apex main events. A lot of it is the UFC taking that established guy that has the name that everyone knows, whether they're a former champion, they're a guy at the top of the weight class, and they take on some up-and-coming, dangerous, surging contender. And we've seen the veterans hold it down a lot so far this year, right? Especially in these Apex events. Gabriel Bonfim, one of the contenders on the rise that went out here and not only got a win, but pitched an absolute shutout, man. He had a great game plan. He fought, within himself, didn't take any crazy risk, right? Knowing that Belal Muhammad doesn't have a ton of knockout power. Really, Belal's path to victory was pressure, pace, and I feel like a lot of it had to rely on Bonfim slowing down in this fight. And the fact that Gabriel did not slow down at all, that to me was very discouraging for the side of Belal Muhammad in this fight. We saw Belal land some good shots. He's very, very game. I just feel like at this point, we're starting to see all throughout MMA, a lot of these fighters on the rise, man. We're seeing this new generation of mixed martial arts, and I think that Gabriel Bonfim is one of those guys in this weight class. We got a legit player here, right? Bonfim's got nasty power in his hands. His boxing is clean. It's getting better and better. He rolls really well, in the pocket, gets out of range. He's fast. He's explosive, and I like the game. Fighting behind the jab, the calf kicks, to pull you into range where it sets up that pull counter right hand, the left hook, the knees, right? We saw that against Randy Brown. So Bonfim is very dangerous, man. And I know that, he was calling out Jack Della Maddalena. I mean, that would be a cool fight. I think that'd be a ton of fun, but I think a Sean Brady matchup would be a lot of fun, right? Sean Brady, super dominant win over Joaquin Buckley recently. Complete domination, was crazy impressive. Have him versus Bonfim like Brady's in his prime, right? Super high-level grappling. His striking's improved. Give me Bonfim versus Brady, man. I think that that's a very, very entertaining fight. And given the fact that while JDM's a former champion of his own, he is riding a 2-fight losing streak. Now, granted, to Islam and Carlos Prates, so again, a crazy strength of schedule there. Two of the best guys in the weight class. Islam, one of the best fighters of all time. But I think Bonfim versus Brady, that's the one that kind of gets me nerding out a little bit. I'm like, man, Bonfim, can he stop the takedowns of Brady? Can he box him up on the feet? That's a great matchup, man. So I would like to see Bonfim versus Brady next, especially after pitching a shutout like this. I think that this was almost, if Bonfim went out there and knocked out Belal in the first couple rounds, we'd be saying, whoa, how did he do that? Belal Muhammad's so durable and it's crazy. And I feel like people would just say, well, Belal's over the hill, man, to get caught early and put away. And there would still almost be those questions about Bonfim's gas tank, to where now we saw him push a really good pace for 25 minutes. Now, granted, Belal didn't wrestle a ton, but like I said, I feel like a lot of that was Belal had to be very, very cautious with the front headlock positions and the submission threat that Gabriel brings to the table. So, interesting matchup overall, right? I expected it to be rather competitive no matter who was going to get the job done. I did lean towards Belal to get the job done by a decision. Bonfim pitched a shutout, man. He answered those questions. The gas tank looked good, very explosive, was efficient with the energy. The calf kicks to then open up the boxing. Bonfim looking like a real problem. And I feel like Belal Muhammad is now at that point where this is 3 in a row. Now, granted, no harm, no foul losing to the guys he's losing to. JDM, excellent boxing. Ian Machado Gary, unbelievably high-level fighter, right? Really good striking. And now Bonfim, who's looking like that next possible, champion maybe in the future, in the welterweight division. So Belal's losing to some really good fighters, but it's the fact of the wrestling's not working. Guys are becoming a lot more, there's a lot of film on Belal out there, right? He was on that crazy win streak, beat Leon Edwards to win the belt. And now, when you were at the top and you're a guy that's been around for so long, there's a lot of film on you. You're a little bit older in your career. You're kind of set in your ways, and your style is your style. And I think Belal's a very smart fighter, right? He made some good adjustments, was moving well, switching some, up on the stances, doing some things here and there. But I think it's at the point now where it's like, I feel like the title is no longer really in sight for Belal. It's basically like the UFC might just kind of have him as more or less a gatekeeper, to the top 10 at this point. So maybe Belal Muhammad, I know he's going to be competing, I think, in RAF coming up against Ben Askren, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe Belal gets more into the wrestling and grappling stuff, because at this point, his striking, it was underrated at one point. Now I feel like it's rated. We all understand Belal's solid on the feet. I just don't know if the title's out of the picture now, really kind of where does Belal fit into it all in the welterweight division. So I do believe that Belal is still very, very good. It's just the fact that these guys, man, that are young and hungry in this division are super explosive. They're very dangerous. And while Belal was competitive with JDM, competitive with Machado Gary, even though one close got swept here, there were still some competitive moments here and there, but for the most part, Bonfim was just a step ahead, and it feels like Belal is at that point where he is just clearly a step behind at least a lot of the guys towards the top. So Belal, kind of in no man's land at this point in the division. This is how the game goes, man. Guys get a little bit older. Father time starts to creep in, and these young savages on the rise, they are no joke, especially Gabriel Bonfim, who's very, very explosive and pitched a shutout. Great performance by Bonfim. The striking, the submission threat, the guy's very well-rounded. He's the full package. Massive win for Gabriel Bonfim, and it was awesome to see him go a full 25 minutes, so now we know about that gas tank if we had any questions about it like I did. Great performance by Bonfim, man. Very impressive. Brendan Allen versus Edmen Shabazyan. I feel like we all saw this coming, right? I like Edmen Shabazyan a lot. I've been an Edmen Shabazyan believer, but I couldn't pick him in this fight for actually not the reasons that we really saw. I thought that Brendan was going to have a lot of success grappling. I thought in round one it would be Edmen in the bizarre rib cage, right? Edmen as pale as a ghost, man, right? Edmen Shabazyan, pale as a ghost, and then the rib cage sticking out all crazy. Shabazyan's a dog, man. I love watching Edmen Shabazyan fight. He's a very technical striker. He looked a little bit robotic to me tonight. I don't know if what the deal was there, but to me, Edmen looked very, very stiff. I don't know if a lot of that was he was kind of worried about the Brendan Allen grappling game, and he shucked off all the takedowns, basically. I mean, Brendan Allen, I think, got one takedown technically later on in the third round, but Shabazyan got right back to his feet. Edmen showed some good improvements in his game. right? This was a competitive fight, one that Brendan Allen was definitely winning, but it was still competitive. Edmen was having some moments. The jab was popping. Shabazyan's got clean striking, man. Very, very clean on the feet. Strickland was in his corner yelling some things, right? And I think Shabazyan, obviously, training with Sean Strickland, the takedown defense is getting better. The jab is money. His striking is there. It's like Shabazyan has the tools. It's just when he gets in there against some of these top guys, he kind of freezes up, and we don't see that same Shabazyan that we see against some of the lower-level opposition. And that's been a critique of Shabazyan for me. I've picked him in a lot of these fights recently. But he's just like, it's almost uneventful, right? He'll go out there and Muniz is having his way, and it's like a wash Muniz, and then boom, Shabazyan knocks him out. Go into a decision with Petrosky, I believe, and it's like Brundage knocked out Petrosky. So Shabazyan, to me, a guy that has the skills, still young to where he can make those improvements, but this was a big step up in competition, right? We see Edmen, we've seen him fight Imavov, Derek Brunson, we've seen him fight some really high-level guys, and it just feels like he's a step behind, which is what I expected in this fight. And we've seen Brendan Allen throughout his career, especially, I'd say over his past few fights, the striking's looked a lot better, right? And we know he was in camp with Khamzat Chimaev for Khamzat's fight against Sean Strickland, so I'm sure, getting some good rounds in there. Allen's a good grappler. So for Shabazyan to stuff the takedowns, I thought it was impressive. The Allen corner, Pat Downey, they were calling for, a takedown in round 3. And I feel like if he could have gotten Edmen down and flattened out, maybe Allen could have found some sort of submission. So Edmen was game, did a very good job of being a Shabazyan believer, but I had to fade him in this fight because Brendan Allen knows how to win fights, man. And he's durable. He's a dog. He's going to move forward, throw in the kicks. His boxing actually looked pretty sharp tonight. I feel like Allen's made some good improvements in the striking game. And we know with the grappling, nasty submission skills. His jiu-jitsu is very good. We saw what he was able to do to RDR as RDR faded in that fight. Brendan Allen walked down. Marvin Vettori was putting it on him. So I don't think he's getting a title shot. I know he was calling for Strickland. And by the way, Strickland knocked him out before. Sean Strickland would dot up Brendan Allen and make it look easy. So Sean Strickland's a horrible matchup for Brendan Allen. Allen's not beating Sean Strickland in a rematch. He got battered the first time. I think it would be even worse this time around. Brendan Allen's still very good, man. Still very, very good. And shout out to him for taking this fight. This was a big risk because Shabazyan was basically the one with everything to gain. The only thing Allen really had to gain from this was a paycheck, right? Because if he loses to Shabazyan, it's like, man, you lost to a guy that's not even ranked, who's very skilled, but still. You know what I mean? It's just kind of that look of fighting a guy that's not ranked. So big risk from Allen. I kind of like the idea of, maybe I would love to see him versus DDP. There's animosity there. That'd be great, but it sounds like we're probably getting DDP Usman is kind of the rumor that's, floating around. I think Imavov probably fighting Strickland for the belt. Khamzat's kind of in that rotation. So I feel like Brendan Allen versus the winner of DDP and Kamaru Usman is something that could make sense. Or another top guy in the weight class. So Brendan Allen, he's been around for a while, man. And this guy's like 14 wins in the middleweight division. He's like up there with some of the best all time, which is pretty crazy. Sneaky Brendan Allen, man. All in Allen. Great performance. It was a competitive fight, one that Allen was clearly winning. I thought he would have more success with the grappling, but that's a good sign to a degree, seeing that, Shabazyan stopped the takedown, so kind of not a good sign there for Allen, but the fact that he was able to outstrike a very clean technical striker in Edmen Shabazyan. Good performance by Brendan Allen. For Ziam versus Tom Nolan, man, I was surprised by this because I've been saying that I feel like Ziam is one of these guys that's been underrated for a while now, and I feel like he almost got got exposed by Tom Nolan. And when I say exposed, Tom Nolan's a very good fighter, and we know that, right? Tom Nolan, I think training with Quillen Sal killed, right? That team's on fire. Tom Nolan, tall, rangy guy, good knees, good front kicks, mixes his shots up well, a solid ground game. The improvements that I feel like we were seeing in Fares's game just weren't there against Tom Nolan. And this to me was, Tom Nolan did some good things and was able to win the grappling exchanges with Ziam, but I thought that Fares deserved to lose this fight. It was some of the worst fight IQ I've seen in a long, just this year, in a while, in some of these fights. I feel like we see bad fight IQ all the time, but it was some of the worst from Ziam. Like, get back to range. Get to your sniper-like kickboxing. What are you doing? You're down 2 rounds. Why are you grappling with Tom Nolan? A guy that's shown that he's clearly a better grappler than you. Just very, 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 very questionable decision-making from Ziam. Nolan was landing some good shots on the feet. Ziam, I don't know what the hell he was doing in round 3. I don't know what he was doing a lot throughout this fight, trying to turn back into Nolan and grapple. It's like the guy is better than you in that area, which we saw the improvements in Ziam's game, and I thought he could possibly edge Nolan in that department. But I figured on the feet, Ziam would be more technical, a little bit speedier, and could put that striking on him and find some ways to get to Tom Nolan. And he did at moments, but this was all about Tom Nolan, man. He put on a good performance, did what he had to do to get the job done. He's very well-rounded, and now he should be in the top 15. And Ziam, a guy that I thought was going to get, because he was ranked 14, someone maybe in the top 10, something like that. He ended up getting this fight. And now I think Ziam is going to get bounced from the rankings. And now Nolan calling out Renato Moicano. I like that fight. I don't know if Moicano will take it, right? Because he's saying that he wants big fights and all this kind of stuff. Moicano's made some money, right? He's got a name. He's got a YouTube channel. So I'm not sure if that happens. But Tom Nolan, guy that definitely deserves a big fight next, going out there and taking out a very game opponent in Ziam, who was on a nice win streak. Nolan on a great win streak as well. What is that, 5 or 6 in a row now? So Tom Nolan looking very, very good. Put some respect on his name, man. Guy's well-rounded and has a complete skill set. Great performance. Bryce Mitchell, Santiago Luna. Bryce Mitchell, I think he's a serious problem in the bantamweight division, man. He's absolutely found his weight class. And I know that he really drains himself to get down to 135, but I can't help but feel like Bryce's game is going to be a problem for a lot of guys, if not most of the weight class. Bryce is not only big for does he have a big frame for the division, but he's got a sticky grappling game. His wrestling is solid. His striking actually looked kind of decent on the feet. I know when we watch Bryce's striking, it's kind of funky and a little bit all over the place and not like the most smooth striking in the world, but it works and complements his game, right? He just kind of spams kicks, throwing the good straight left hand down the middle, some good little push kicks here and there, but a lot of it is just to ultimately get to a body lock, get to a situation where he can trip you, get his hands locked, take you down, and that's what he was able to do. And Santiago Luna, at 21 years of age, it's a guy that I've been high on, man. And listen, one of those things where you just see from a young fighter the lack of experience and making good decisions in the octagon. Santiago Luna, the game plan should have been very simple. Do not grapple with Bryce Mitchell. Don't kick, walk forward, and just box. Because Bryce Mitchell, yes, Santiago Luna has the wrestling background, but when it comes to overall grappling and you're getting into these scrambles and these entanglements, Bryce Mitchell is going to win. He has the much better jiu-jitsu. He's a very high-level jiu-jitsu guy. That's not where Santiago Luna is going to win the fight. Where Luna is going to win the fight is by sprawling and brawling. Not when Bryce Mitchell shoots in on you to get his hands locked and then you let your ego get the better of you and you turn him along the fence and then you're going in for your own takedown. Now you end up on your back. Now you lose the first round. Now you're tired. Now your energy got zapped. You took this on short notice. Now you're starting to breathe a little heavier. Now Mitchell gets you down again, and now you're caught in that cycle to where once you kind of botch it like that in the first round, in my opinion, and you're this young guy, it just kind of feels like it's all going to go out the window. So great performance by Bryce Mitchell. The veteran experience was on full display. And I feel like Luna will be back. This was a good learning opportunity for him. Down the stretch, making some bad decisions, giving up, his back, and then Mitchell transitioning, getting to the back, getting off into side control. He was just so sticky and smooth on the ground, man. Bryce Mitchell, very, very high level with his frame, with his physicality and his skill. I can't help but feel like he is a massive problem in this weight class. And think about it. When he got Luna down, Luna was not able to get back up really whatsoever. So excellent control by Bryce Mitchell. And to end the fight in the final seconds with a sub was pretty badass, man. Happy for Bryce Mitchell. It's cool to see him down in the bantamweight division. I've been high on Santiago Luna. So learning opportunity for him. Huge step up in competition. I feel like he didn't fight a smart fight at all, but a lot of that had to do with what Bryce Mitchell was bringing to the table and put that veteran fight IQ on display. If you're Luna, you can't be getting into grappling entanglements with a guy as high level as Bryce Mitchell. Great performance by Bryce, man. Way to get it done. Iwo Baraneski versus Junior Tafa. This was just such a weird fight. If you could have asked me any outcome of what this fight was going to be, I literally would name 100 things before I would say that Iwo Baraneski would KO Tafa within couple minutes in, not even really. Off of some calf kicks. 2 calf kicks is all it took. And I know that, I think it was Rogerio de Lima up at heavyweight, obliterated the lead leg of Tafa, and I get that, but it took many. It took 2 from Iwo to get Tafa up out of there. And when he threw the second one, I was like, did he just shatter Tafa's leg or something? The way that Junior went down, it looked horrible. And I was like, the fight's over? So to me, this was, I actually was kind of nervous for Iwo because I was like, man, if you're just going to stand in front of Junior Tafa, who may not have the best takedown defense, right, was at heavyweight. He's got crazy power. He's got actually very technical striking. We saw him put Billy Elikana in a ton of trouble up until Elikana was able to submit Tafa. We saw Tafa knock out Christian. And I'm like, man, if Iwo plays that reckless slug game where he's ducking and chucking like we've seen in some of these fights, Tafa can catch him and put him away. But ultimately, I trusted Iwo to get the job done. Now, I thought we would see him get Tafa to the ground, and Tafa's takedown defense looked really good. And that's something I mentioned, that Junior's takedown defense, it's bad if you keep shooting takedowns and if you get to that second layer of your takedown, right? When you shoot that first initial shot, Tafa's pretty good at defending. So still got some questions about Iwo's ground game. We hear about the judo. We hear about, we know he was able to submit some guys prior to the UFC, but yet to really see it on display. So I feel like those questions are still there. But man, these dudes from Poland, they got some shins and feet made out of like titanium or something. Jan Blachowicz and now Iwo Baranuski, 2 calf kicks and had Junior Tafa fall into the deck for a TKO stoppage. So took no damage. I'd like to see Iwo have a quick turnaround and I give him a ranked opponent, man. Absolutely give him a ranked opponent. This guy's been running through people. Hasn't even gotten out of a first round. I don't think really in his career whatsoever, at least since he's been in the UFC. Must-see TV. Guy's very dangerous. Very impressive stuff against a dangerous striker in Junior Tafa. Matt Schnell, Alessandro Costa. I mean, nobody's surprised by this whatsoever. I feel like Matt Schnell should retire, man. I've been saying that this week, if you did not know, I inducted him into the Benny Dariush Club. We gave him access to the Chinny Chin Chin Club. Look, I'm not saying that Schnell had the same career as a guy like Dariush. Like at one point, Dariush was on a crazy win streak. Should have gotten the title shot. We all understand that. I'm not saying Schnell is the same caliber fighter as Dariush. But at one point, Schnell was known for the durability, the submission skills, the come from behind victories. This dude was like retired, not retired. Matt Schnell is basically just going to be fed to upcoming guys to be made a highlight. That's what's happening. So Alessandro Costa, the Diego Lopez protege, the Diego clone, right? His little mini-me in the flyweight division is the real deal, man. He's got crazy power, and he's one of these guys where if he could hurt you on the feet, he could pounce on you and lock in a submission as well. So we all figured Costa would win this fight by a knockout or a submission, and I think the official call we had was a first or second round knockout. I can't remember, but we definitely picked Costa by a KO. So good performance by Costa, man. Easy work. Marcus McGhee, John Yannis. This was a fun fight. This was a very fun fight, one that Marcus McGhee was clearly winning, but Marcus McGhee was almost getting caught into John Yannis' game, and I was getting a little bit worried heading into round 3, right? Round 1, McGhee looked really smooth, was sticking and moving, and it's like, man, there's that Marcus McGhee we know with the, skateboarding around the octagon, right? We know he's a good skateboarder, good footwork, good movement. And then in round 2, he was getting pulled into the pocket, getting pulled into a little bit of that John Yannis game, right? Getting into a tight boxing match in the phone booth. And then McGee's corner wisely was like, hey, dog, yeah, let's not do that in round 3. Let's stick and move. Let's get on our bike, utilize our speed, utilize our footwork. And that's what he did in round 3 and was able to clearly outpoint John Yannis. But my big takeaway is Marcus McGhee is a guy that to me is at least a back-end ranked guy in this weight class. So I'd like to see him get a ranked opponent next. Marcus McGhee, super high level, very technical. Going from Piotr Jan to John Yannis, like when you fight a guy like Piotr Jan and then you're going to have to go in there and strike with these other bantamweights, it's probably like, man, this ain't nothing, man. Like, obviously, like Sean O'Malley, there's Song Yadong, there's some other very good guys. And I'm not saying Yannis is a scrub. We're going to talk about him in a second. But I'm just saying, when you're in there with Jan, and then you go to these other guys, it's like, man, I was just in there with the most smooth tactician we've probably ever seen in the fight game. At least, overall, I think Piotr Jan's one of the most skilled fighters of all time. So Marcus McGhee was primed and ready for this opportunity. He's the guy that should be fighting a ranked dude next. And listen, John Yannis, this is a guy that I'm going to be looking to probably pick in some fights moving forward for sure. I didn't pick him here because Marcus McGhee's very smooth, very, very technical. John Yannis is the real deal. He's durable. He's tough. He took this on short notice as well, so something to note. He's got a ton of power in his hands. Good technique, good defense, can pull you into his shots well, some good kicks as well. Really, the only weakness in Yannis' game is obviously a guy that's got good footwork and movement like McGhee, and a big step up in competition, something that Yannis will learn from. He'll bounce back. He'll be better. John Yannis is going to be able to compete with a lot of guys in this weight class, man. His weakness is guys that have really good grappling, like how Austin Boshi was able to get to the back, submit him early. If you can't take down John Yannis and you're just going to be striking with him and you're not one of these high-level guys at the top of the weight class, Yannis is going to be very, very live to put some of these dudes away. His boxing's nasty. He's got some good power. While McGhee won, and I expected that, I'm high on John Yannis, man. I feel like his stock just keeps rising, whether he's winning or losing some of these fights since he's been in the UFC. The guy's got some skills, man. Marcus McGhee, though, very legit. Bruno Silva, Edgar Chairez. Man, I've been telling you all about Edgar Chairez. And I saw somebody on X was like, since when did Edgar Chairez become a demon, man? Edgar Chairez has been that guy. I've been telling you dudes, man. The only losses I think Edgar has had since he's been in the UFC are to Joshua Van and Tatsuro Taira. When I broke down the fight, I picked Chairez to get it done, and I told you I was handing out 2 participation trophies. And that was the fact that Chairez, yes, he lost to Van and Taira, but he didn't get finished. They both went the distance. The deal with Edgar Chairez, and I feel like a lot of people were looking at his last performance against Boons, and they're like, man, that's not going to get it done against Bruno Silva. And I agree. But I was like, that's not the Edgar Chairez that I know. The Edgar that I know is the guy that's going to move forward, fight behind that long, awkward kind of build that he has in the flyweight division, that snappy jab, get the calf kicks going. His takedown defense is good. And if you take Edgar down, he's a scrambly rascal on the ground, and he's a pest to deal with because his submission game is good. His jiu-jitsu is very, very good. Right, started to throw out some lazy jabs to where Silva was able to counter over the top with the right hand. So something that I think Edgar needs to work on is not just throwing out lazy jabs. It's where he was getting countered. But when he wasn't doing that, man, was he clocking Bruno Silva, was dotting him up with the jab when he was snapping it, firing the right hand, was able to crack him, and then started to get the uppercuts going, was able to damage him up on the feet, hop on the back, and find the submission to get him out of there, man. Edgar Chairez is legit. And I've been high on, man, this is one of my favorite guys in the flyweight division, one of my favorite fighters on the come-up in the UFC. I've been tooting the Edgar Chairez horn. I didn't pick him against Van, and I didn't pick him against Taira, but I think I've picked him against just about everybody else. So Chairez, he's very, very good. He's very skilled, good takedown defense, very well-rounded, and behind all of it, the dude is a dog. He's durable. He's hard to put away. And that's why I figured this was a good matchup for him, because as skilled and as crafty as Bruno Silva is, I didn't think he would knock him out. I didn't think he would submit him. And we know that Bruno Silva is a guy that, as dangerous as he is, has some durability issues. You get pulled into a dogfight with Edgar Chairez. This dude's got some aura, man. Edgar Chairez, he's got some aura, man. And he came in with the hair this week. Looked pretty good with the hair. Buzzed the head. Went full-blown bald. Man, I like Edgar Chairez, man. I think he's just an absolute dog. Absolute, like, throwback type of fighter. Priscila Cachoeira, Chelsea Chandler. Just get rid of Priscila Cachoeira, man. This, to me, was a coin flip fight. I picked Priscila to win by a KO, and she landed some good shots early. But to be fair, Chelsea Chandler actually looked improved. Her striking looked snappy. It looked quick. Was able to get to the back of Priscila. Was able to get to – I could see her setting up that armbar, right? Was kind of getting into that position, grabbing the arm, trying to kind of pry it. And I was like, oh, man, she's eventually going to get an armbar. Then she ended up getting it. Easy win for Chelsea Chandler. Priscila Cachoeira, the ground game, brother, it's 0. And the fact that she was getting tagged on the feet by Chandler, not a good sign. Good win for Chelsea Chandler. She looks slick in this fight, but I feel like the Cachoeira experiment, we've seen enough. Jordan Leavitt, Joe Anderson, Brito. We picked Brito to get this one done by a submission, and I believe I said ninja choke. Now, I did think it would happen in the second round, but it happened earlier. Exactly what I thought was going to happen happened, but in the first round. Jordan Leavitt was a guy that people were overrating because he beat Yadier Davaye, and we don't know how good Yadier is because of the Isaac Dalgarian fight with all the shenanigans that went on there. So not fair to Davaye, not fair to Leavitt, but that's the reality. And I know that Leavitt looked good at 155, but since coming down to 45, he looks big, looks strong, looks physical. Joe Anderson Brito was the much better fighter. It was just a matter of, would Leavitt be able to utilize the wrestling and the physicality to control Brito? And I was saying, I don't think Leavitt is as good as a guy like Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini's a better wrestler, and his jiu-jitsu, you could say Leavitt's jiu-jitsu's somewhat on that level. I feel like all around, Sabatini a much better grappler than Jordan Leavitt. So, Joe Anderson Brito, I figured on the feet, it would go bombs away, throwing the big shots he was, which was a little bit scary to me because then Leavitt could dip underneath, take him down. Leavitt shot that super low takedown to get a hold of Brito early. Brito's takedown defense looked much better in this fight. Defended well, was able to get back to the feet, and then Leavitt started to feel like he started to panic wrestle a little bit, shot a labored takedown, and then Brito locked in the ninja choke, kind of how I saw this one playing out. It happened in the first round instead of the second, but that's how I saw Joe Anderson Brito winning. The guy's very, very good, man. Good win for Brito. Gisela Chaves versus Yannis Duben. This was a close fight. Now, I don't think it should have been a split decision. I thought it was pretty clear that Chaves won 2 out of 3, but Duben was landing some good shots, right? And it started to get a little bit dicey in the third round. We saw Chaves mix in some of the takedowns. Chaves is skilled. I feel like she's got to work on some things, but the technique is there, right? Fires the 1-2, good straight right hand down the pipe. We saw the grappling on display, something we didn't see too much of on DWCS in that crazy fight against Sofia. So got to see a little bit more of Chavez's game. She's very slick, got some room for improvement. Duben's tough. She's got some power. This was a fun fight, but one that I thought Chaves clearly won. And then last but not least, Souza knocking out Ariane Carnelosi. It was tough to see one of the members of the JGMMA lifting club, Ariane Carnelosi. I was telling her, man, you should just get into some bodybuilding at this point. But I faded her in this fight because Souza, since the last time they fought, what was it, 2019, Souza's gotten better. Not a knockout. I didn't see that coming. I thought it would go to a decision. Souza putting her away in the very first round. Carnelosi was backing her up, landing some good shots with the hands. I'm like, maybe Ariane is going to show her, like, hey, man, I beat you the first time, and I'm about to do it again. Souza was just downloading data, waiting, slid out of the way, countered, landed the big right hand. I saw Carnelosi kind of falling over. I'm like, here comes the head kick. Boom. Clipped her with the head kick, was able to put her away. Great performance by Souza to get the job done. So top to bottom, man, I've been really enjoying these Apex cards. I know at one point it was kind of like, man, the Apex, it feels a little bit underwhelming. I went to the Aljo versus Yusuf Zalal card, man. And when you go to the Apex, it's a close environment. It's a ton of fun to go. And I feel like if you go, you'll have a little bit of a different appreciation for the Apex. But just in general, I like these cards. I like what they do with the main event. The established, guy that we all know versus the up-and-coming contender, giving that contender the test. A lot of prospects, fighters looking to prove themselves, veterans looking to keep their spots. I really like what these Apex cards have been, man. And when I went, you really get to see kind of what's so great about it. Like, it's just a close quarters environment. You can see the octagon really, really well. I've been to some local, pro MMA things, and you can't even sit that close. So that's how cool the Apex is, man. The concession stand's close by. So the Apex, if you ever go, man, I encourage you guys. It's a fun experience, and I feel like maybe you'll have a little bit of a different outlook. And overall, these cards always seem to deliver with a ton of entertainment. So shout out to Gabriel Bonfim. Dude put on a fantastic performance, pitched a shutout, and Bryce Mitchell looking like a real problem at 135.